Strange but true stories. Tales from the light side, the dark side, and the other side. I'm Steve White. Unlike the person whose story I'm about to tell, I like driving. And outside of being huddled up next to a fire in the fireplace at home during winter, and maybe a few other places, one of the coziest places for me is in my car on a dark, rainy night. I don't know, it's just a feeling of comfort being enclosed by the car, music playing, and adventure up ahead. But the subject of today's story, already not a fan of driving, found himself in a very chilly spot on a stormy night. So I'm going to admit something to you. I hate driving. It's not so bad if someone is with me, but driving alone is one of my least favorite things to do. Now, I'm talking about long trips. I don't mind driving by myself to the grocery store or somewhere within 30 minutes of the house. But much longer, and I just don't dig it. On this particular day, though, I didn't have a choice. I had to go visit my parents, who live about 400 kilometers or 250 miles away. My wife couldn't get away, and she stayed at home with our newborn. So I hopped in the car in the early afternoon, begrudgingly, and I set off on my journey. The drive started out normal. I stopped after the first hour to grab something to eat and drink and to break up the trip a little bit. When I got back in my car, ready to resume my trip, it started to rain. Great. This was getting better by the minute. The rain started light, and it grew heavier as I drove on. The rain was constant from that point on, going back and forth from steady and manageable to pounding and difficult to see. I was growing weary of it, with about 60 kilometers to their house, and I considered, pulling off on the side of the road and stopping for a bit to see if the rain would pass. But I pressed on, and also it didn't seem like the rain was ever going to pass. With about 20 kilometers left in my trip, I saw a person, a young lady, standing on the side of the road. Of course, with her being out in the rain, she was soaked. I slowed to a stop, lowered the window, and I realized I recognized this girl. We had been neighbors when I was growing up. We had been friends as kids, and we had gone to the same school, but we lost touch as we had grown older and went our different ways. I had heard that her marriage had broken up and had moved back in with her parents a few years back. It didn't make much sense to see her out in the rain, so far from her parents' house. 20K is about 12 miles in the U.S. She must have moved out, gotten her own place, or remarried or something like that, being way out here, but still, why out in the rain? She recognized me almost immediately and was very excited to see me. I asked her what she was doing out here in the rain on a lonely stretch of road. She said she had taken a walk and suddenly she was lost and then it started raining. She asked if I could give her a ride home to her parents' place. Seriously? You got way out here on a walk? I didn't want to make her feel silly or self-conscious, so I didn't press her on how she had managed to do that. But I wanted to help, so I told her to hop on in. We talked and reminisced. She said she had 2 kids and was living with her parents, trying to put her life back together. I told her I was married, had a newborn, told her about all my family. She was happy to hear things were going well. As we entered the neighborhood, her home was the first house on the right, and then my parents' house, about a kilometer past hers. The rain had picked up in intensity and was pounding as we pulled up in front of her house, so I gave her my jacket to wear, so she wouldn't get any more soaked than she already was. She was grateful for the ride and for the jacket, and so thankful that it was me who stopped. She told me that she would leave the jacket on the gate and I could pick it up in the morning. She also made me promise that we would see each other before I headed back home. She closed the door and headed toward her house as I drove off toward my parents' house. The run from the car to my parents' front door left me drenched in cold, I was happy to have a warm cup of tea waiting for me as I sat down and started talking to my parents. I told them about the young lady down the street, my friend from school, and how I had, strangely, found her standing on the side of the road, far from home. I kept going on and on about all that we had talked about, her family, and then the marriage and divorce and the kids. The whole time their face had this weird look on it. They exchanged glances with each other and then looked back at me. My mom asked me several questions, making sure that she understood which girl I had given a ride home. Once she was sure I was talking about the person that she was thinking about, she told me that that girl had died about a month ago. She had cancer and battled it for several years. Not many people outside of her own family had known about the cancer. In fact, my parents had just learned in the past few days about her passing. Her funeral had been small and quiet, so it couldn't be the same girl that I had given a ride to. So I had to make sure that the girl I was talking about was the same person that she was talking about. We managed to find an old picture. It was the same girl. Now, I was shocked and at a loss for words. I swore to my parents up and down I had given her a ride home. I had talked with her and even gave her my jacket to use as a cover in the rain. I was going to go pick it up in the morning. I'll go see her parents tomorrow and... What? Offer condolences? Tell them I gave their recently deceased daughter a ride home the night before? I was exhausted from the drive and from what I had just heard. I went up to bed, but I could barely sleep at all that night. I kept tossing and turning, staring at the ceiling, trying to make some sense out of what I had just gone through. Surely there had to be a mistake. Surely they were mistaken. Obviously, they had to be. I'd just given her a ride home. There's just no way around it. At some point, the exhaustion took over and I drifted off to sleep. I woke up the next day and I was in a hurry to make the short trip to her house and see if I had dreamed the whole thing or maybe my parents had been mistaken. She was alive and well just down the street. After a quick bite to eat, I decided to walk to her house. The rain had stopped and I needed some fresh air to clear my head a little. On the walk, I wondered, what if my jacket isn't there? And I had some weird waking dream or hallucination of a girl I knew long ago. Or, hey, what if she's alive? That would be great, and we could go for coffee and laugh at my parents for thinking she was dead. As I got closer to the house, though, I could see what appeared to be my jacket hanging on the gate post, just like she said. I grabbed it off the post, and it was still wet from the previous night's rain. I walked up to the front door and rang the bell. A few moments later, her mom came to the door with a surprised look, but one of recognition as a friend of her daughter's. I said, "Hello," but I didn't know what to really say next. I managed, Is Jenny here?" A sad look then came over her face, and she let me know that Jenny had indeed died a few weeks prior. Her 2 kids were staying with them at the moment. The vision of her sitting in my car just the night before was incredibly fresh in my mind. I didn't know what to say. Do I tell her I gave her dead daughter a ride home the previous night? I couldn't find those words or work it out in my head how that would sound or be received, so I just offered my condolences, shared a memory with her from many years ago that put a small smile on her face, and then said goodbye. It had been nearly 15 years since I had spoken with Jenny. That is, before last night. We weren't that close to begin with, and certainly had drifted far apart. As I walked back to my parents' house, I replayed the previous night's events in my head and know that what I remembered is what really happened. Why had she come to me? Why me? Hopefully she rests in peace, but that memory of her in my car on that dark and rainy night 3 weeks after she died will live on for many, many years to come. This has been another strange but true story, submitted to us by a viewer and subscriber just like you. Tell us what you think in the comments below. Did he give the ghost of Jenny a ride home that night? Or did his mind, overtaxed by exhaustion, take him on a journey that night? After you leave a comment, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and sign up for notifications so you know when the next video drops to the channel. Thanks for watching this video. I'm Steve White. Until next time.